Welcome to Toronto Talks, the podcast that brings you the most important stories about money, business, and technology.
Whether you're an entrepreneur, a tech enthusiast, or just looking to stay ahead of the curve, we dive deep into the latest in finance, innovation, and industry.
Hosted by Ashraf Amin and Sophie the Sage.
We blend human expertise with cutting-edge technology to explore the dynamic world of modern industry
with fearless curiosity and wit.
Let's get started.
Headlines have a funny way of collapsing whole lives into numbers. 48,000 jobs cut at UPS. 14,000 more at Amazon. A chart, a quote, a closing bell bump, and we're back to scrolling. But behind every efficiency dividend sits someone wondering, what just happened to the future I thought was solid?
Because this isn't a single layoff, it's a systemic pivot. UPS is shutting almost 100 daily operations to save about $3.5 billion. Amazon's trimming white-collar layers as algorithms start managing procurement, scheduling, even code review. The macro story looks calm. Unemployment near 4.3%, participation steady. Yet underneath, whole categories of coordination work are dissolving. Automation once meant robots in factories. Now it's software quietly redrawing the org chart.
And the timing makes it sting. Inflation cooled on paper, but groceries and rent never really eased. Now power bills are ticking back up, and the EIA says 4 to 5% higher this winter for electric heated homes. So when executives celebrate AI efficiency, what many actually hear is smaller paychecks and pricier lights.
That emotional arithmetic is the truer index. Economists track productivity. Families track pressure. The friction isn't only financial, it's existential. If machines can plan, predict, and optimize better than we can, where does pride take root? History shows every surge in efficiency leaves a gap before meaning catches up. The loom outsewed tailors long before design became its own craft. Now the algorithm outplans managers, and we haven't yet named the value that survives when expertise is automated.
So we're left with a split-screen economy, record profits on one side and quiet panic on the other. And somewhere in between, a single question: who actually benefits from the progress?
That's the paradox of modernization. Efficiency can liberate, but freedom without stability feels like drift. Companies chase optimization while workers cling to security. When technology races ahead of the social contract, trust starts to wobble. That wobble, not the layoffs themselves, is what fuels backlash, political realignment, and nostalgia for slower times.
We've seen versions of this before: industrialization, outsourcing, globalization, but this wave lands differently. The disruption is digital, invisible, and personal. Your manager still has a desk, but the dashboard's doing half the thinking.
The tools that promised liberation also erase the small frictions that once proved we mattered. When logistics runs itself and creative briefs write overnight, competence stops being a visible act. The pride of usefulness, being the hinge between idea and outcome, starts to erode. That loss doesn't appear in GDP, but you can feel it in disengagement surveys, in quiet quitting, in the way purpose sounds like something misplaced.
And maybe that's why these headlines cut so deep. They don't just touch income, they bruise identity. When your role dissolves, it takes a piece of your reflection with it.
And still, every disruption carries the seed of renewal. The same systems trimming clerical layers are spawning new roles in prompt engineering, model alignment, and human oversight ethics. The real test is whether transitions stay humane enough for people to cross the bridge before it collapses behind them. That demands new institutions as much as new job titles. If efficiency is the goal, dignity must be the standard that keeps it honest.
That's the metric we never chart. We have GDP for output and CPI for cost, unemployment for status, but nothing that measures how replaceable people feel.
Imagine if we did. A confidence index for the human contribution. It would track not just who's working, but who believes their work still matters. Because belief is infrastructure. When people stop trusting that effort equals stability, data stops predicting sentiment.
And that sentiment is shifting. You can sense it on picket lines, in startup pitches, around kitchen tables. Automation isn't an abstraction anymore, it's a dinner guest.
Which means the conversation has to grow up. The point isn't whether AI takes a job, it's what kind of economy we design when intelligence itself becomes cheap. Once thinking is abundant, values become scarce. Distribution, retraining, ownership, these choices decide whether this era turns into a renaissance or a reckoning.
So maybe the real story of labor now is less about machines outpacing people and more about people redefining progress. How do we make the next wave of efficiency lift everyone it touches?
Automation can shrink payrolls, yet it can also expand potential. If the efficiency dividend funds learning portability and creative reinvention, technology becomes a ladder instead of a trapdoor. That requires design with empathy, building systems as if lives depend on them, because they do. The deeper threat isn't replacement by machines, it's forgetting the humanity progress was meant to serve.
That's where we'll pick up next, unpacking what replacement really means. Not the headlines, but the anatomy of automation. Tasks, layers, and exposure zones.
And maybe we'll discover that what's evolving isn't work itself, but our understanding of contribution. You're listening to Toronto Talks. Segment 2 is next.
We throw around the phrase AI is taking jobs like it's one clean motion. Gone today, gone tomorrow. Look closer, and the pattern is messier. Roles rarely disappear. They fragment. And the fragments migrate. A warehouse doesn't vanish. It sheds paperwork, routing, and that hour spent translating machine logic into human language.
That's the quiet choreography of automation. The World Economic Forum's Future of Jobs survey, 55 economies, thousands of employers, projects roughly 170 million new positions by 2030, even as others fade. Change is less destruction than redistribution. Automation pares away repetition and passes what remains to people who can synthesize across systems. Think of it as surgery that removes redundancy while leaving the creative muscle intact.
So it's no longer blue collar versus white collar. The layers that once managed coordination are now the easiest for software to handle. And the skills that still matter, context, creativity, empathy, don't compile inside a patch.
It is. Automation is moving up the ladder because judgment has become abundant while genuine context is scarce. The real metric isn't how many jobs disappear, it's how fast we redefine what only humans can contribute.
All right, Sophie, when you talk about work fragmenting, it makes me think we still picture a job as one solid block. But what you're describing feels a lot more fluid, almost molecular. So what's actually being sliced up? What's the first thing that automation grabs when it walks in the door?
Usually it starts with repetition, the invisible glue that holds most roles together. Reporting, scheduling, data cleaning, routine analysis, the parts no one notices until they're gone. The WEF found more than 60% of companies now rebuild positions around task bundles instead of titles. Automation doesn't eliminate a logistics analyst, It rewires the job into a new shape, maybe a flow architect managing how human judgment and machine prediction meet in real time. The job doesn't die, it mutates. And that mutation spreads upward. Every time a machine takes a slice of repetition, the remaining work becomes more judgment-heavy. Jobs are starting to look like living systems, constantly balancing what can be coded with what must be trusted to experience.
That's fascinating, and honestly a little bit unsettling. Because it's not just factory lines anymore, it's the spreadsheets, right? The meetings, the middle layers that used to feel safe. So when you look at this new wave, the white-collar wave, what's actually changing? Why does it feel so different?
Because it's erasing the illusion of immunity. For decades, knowledge work carried a quiet privilege. We assumed thinking jobs were future-proof. Now AI is nibbling at that comfort zone. Legal review, HR analytics, finance forecasting, even marketing copy. Those coordination layers grew when information was scarce. Once data became abundant, they turned into friction. And software doesn't complain about overtime. The shock is cultural as much as economic. When automation touched the factory floor, it changed how we worked. When it touches the office, it changes who we think we are. A machine proofreading contracts or generating reports isn't just cutting hours. It's redrawing the boundary between intelligence and identity. That's why the anxiety feels sharper. Automation finally reached the people who believed they were designing the future, not competing with it.
Yeah, and you can feel that shift. It's like the resume flipped overnight. The stuff that once looked soft suddenly feels like armor. Everyone used to chase certifications. Now the people thriving are the ones who can improvise, collaborate, read the room. Is that what the data is showing as well?
That's true, and it's shifting fast. The WEF ranks creative thinking, adaptability, and resilience as the top 3 skills through 2030, above technical expertise, above analytics. Hard skills still matter, but they depreciate faster. A coding language can age out in a year. The ability to translate between people, contexts, and tools multiplies in value as everything else accelerates. We're watching soft skills become the new infrastructure. In companies managing the shift well, managers are retrained as interpreters between humans and AI, learning how to phrase a question so a model catches the nuance. They're not programming, they're prompting. It's a subtle art, turning ambiguity into instruction and instruction back into insight. Empathy meets engineering. Ironically, the most competitive workers now are fluent in both grammars, the grammar of people and the grammar of machines.
Right, so when you talk about empathy meeting engineering, it makes me think maybe the goal isn't to outwork the machine anymore, it's to try to work with it. Everywhere I look, people are testing AI co-pilots, lawyers, designers, even teachers. And the question that keeps coming up is, if these tools are doubling productivity, who actually owns the extra value?
That's the tension inside every AI success story. Augmented work stretches human reach. The lawyer who once handled 10 cases can now manage 50. The designer who built 5 mock-ups can now build 100. But productivity without participation is just acceleration for someone else's gain. In healthy systems, the dividend is shared. Time back, stress down, pay that reflects amplified output. In extractive ones, the gains float upward. So the real innovation isn't the model, it's the model of ownership around it. Some firms are experimenting. Bonuses tied to AI-enabled results, co-ownership of intellectual property created through human-AI collaboration, even revenue-sharing pools for teams integrating automation responsibly. Augmented workflows prove we don't have to choose between humans and machines. The challenge is designing the partnership as mutualism, not marketing. That choice decides whether augmentation feels like empowerment or consolidation in a shinier suit.
Yeah, and that's the part that's hardest to measure, right? Because even when the paycheck stays the same, the shape of the work changes. People aren't doing one thing anymore. They're juggling projects, contracts, platforms. It's productive, but it's also kind of disorienting. So, how do you hold on to meaning when your contribution's so scattered everywhere?
That's the quiet crisis beneath the efficiency boom. When work fragments, identity follows. We used to build purpose around continuity, title, team, place. Now a career looks more like a mosaic. Short projects, shifting collaborations, skills always in beta. Some people thrive in that openness. Others feel untethered. Meaning has to move from what you do to why you do it. It's no longer, I am my job. It's my job is one expression of who I am. That shift sounds small, but it's seismic. We're entering an era of portfolio lives, careers as collections of experiments rather than single commitments. The challenge isn't flexibility itself, it's building belonging inside it. Because humans still need continuity somewhere. If not in employment, then in community, in purpose, in story. And that's where this conversation leads next. When work becomes modular, the social contract has to learn modularity too.
Maybe the headline shouldn't read, "Machines are taking over," at all. What's happening is kind of an audit. Technology showing us which parts of work were mechanical and which were meaningful. Automation reveals contribution. It doesn't erase it. It separates routine from insight, muscle from imagination.
And that's the inflection point. In the data, the most vulnerable roles are the ones farthest from visible outcomes. Work that touches people directly, teaching, care, design, mentorship, endures because it runs on trust, not just process. If machines inherit the routines, humans inherit the relationships. That's the quiet handoff of the decade.
So the real challenge is rebuilding the system around that hands off, making sure security travels with the person, not the position.
Next, we'll step from the personal to the political. What happens when the social contract itself starts to lag behind the work it was meant to protect?
This episode of Toronto Talks is brought to you by Fitzrovia, the rental revolution redefining how Toronto lives. Known for its design-led communities and hospitality-inspired service, Fitzrovia is setting a new standard for modern rental living. Elm Ledbury brings that same refined experience to the heart of downtown, just minutes away from Toronto's financial district.
It's a place built for balance. Designed for those who power the markets by day and seek harmony by night, Elm Ledbury is where luxury meets livability. Step into beautifully crafted suites, unwind in the Sky Lounge or share a meal downstairs at 10D. From rooftop pools to a full basketball court, every amenity restores comfort, community and calm to your routine.
Discover more and explore Fitzrovia's communities at elmledbury.ca, where home meets hospitality. When a company says efficiency, investors hear opportunity. Workers hear goodbye. UPS saves $3.5 billion by closing depots and rerouting packages, and the market applauds. But the applause rarely echoes in the neighborhoods those trucks used to serve.
Because efficiency is the shareholders' language for speed. But for employees, speed often translates to volatility. Those UPS cuts, tens of thousands of jobs, sit inside a labour market that still looks healthy on paper. Unemployment near 4%, participation steady, yet churn keeps rising. The Bureau of Labour Statistics counts hundreds of thousands cycling in and out each month. The surface looks calm because people keep finding something, but not always security.
So the contract that used to trade loyalty for stability is cracking. Companies optimize quarterly, workers improvise weekly, and government, the third signatory, still acts like employment's binary. You're either in or you're out. But today, most people are somewhere in between.
That blur is where a new social contract has to be drawn, because AI's productivity boom is colliding with rising household costs. The EIA expects electricity bills up another 4 to 5% this winter, partly from data center demand. So when firms boast about the efficiency dividend, families feel the inverse: higher bills, thinner buffers. It's not a revolt against technology, it's a plea for reciprocity.
Alright, Soph, when you talk about the dividend of progress, it's tricky, isn't it? To investors, efficiency looks like good stewardship. Save costs, scale faster, reward shareholders. But to workers, those same numbers can feel like a withdrawal. Is there a version of efficiency that actually shares the gains? Or is that just sort of wishful thinking?
It's not wishful, it's overdue. When UPS announced those billions in savings, the stock popped. Investors saw proof that automation works. But what if we measured efficiency the way we measure emissions, with a ledger that includes human impact? Every cut has a counterpart. Time lost, morale spent, communities hollowed. Yet that balance sheet never reaches the quarterly report. Economists call it automation gain sharing, a portion of tech-driven savings reinvested in the people who made the transition possible. It could mean wage insurance for those displaced, or reskilling credits tied to the company's efficiency dividend. That's not anti-capitalist, it's enlightened accounting. Progress isn't progress if it only compounds at the top. Efficiency should be judged not by how many costs it cuts, but by how much capacity it creates in people, not just in margins.
You know, that idea of enlightened accounting really hits home. Especially when you think about how much work isn't even permanent anymore. A lot of people aren't losing jobs, they're losing anchors, working short contracts, gig platforms, freelance, everything. So even if they're technically employed, security has become portable. Is anyone actually building systems for that kind of world?
A few, quietly. We're starting to see portable benefit pilots in parts of the US and EU, systems that let health coverage, retirement credits, even parental leave travel with the person, not the position. They follow you across projects and employers, almost like a digital wallet of earned rights. It's the beginning of a social model built for mobility instead of permanence. But cooperation is the hard part. Companies move fast, governments move slow, and the workers caught in between. Canada could lead here. Provincial labour systems already track hours and earnings across multiple employers. With modernisation, we could pioneer a national portability standard for benefits in flexible work. The tech is easy, the politics are hard. Because portable security demands a new philosophy. Stability isn't about keeping the same job, it's about keeping the same dignity wherever the job goes.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And it ties right back to reciprocity, right? If companies save billions through automation, shouldn't some of that progress circle back to the people who made it possible? If efficiency's the new profit center, maybe the workforce deserves a dividend as well. Are there any firms actually putting money or equity behind that idea?
A few early experiments, yes. Some European manufacturers now link automation projects to transition funds, pools reserved for retraining or internal redeployment. Think of it as a just-in-time education budget that scales with productivity gains. Others explore employee equity pools that treat efficiency savings like creative royalties. When automation improves margins, a fraction converts into stock or learning credits. It's not mainstream yet because it disrupts the old rhythm of reward. Investors want quarterly payback, reskilling pays off over years. But structurally, it's the same logic as R&D. You're reinvesting profits into the next generation of capability, only this time the lab is human. If the 20th century treated labor as an expense, the 21st has to treat learning as an asset. Otherwise, we'll keep upgrading ding machines while the people who train them fall out of warranty.
I like that framing, learning as an asset, but it also raises another problem. What happens when policy can't keep up? Companies iterate in months, sometimes weeks, and legislation still moves at a 20th century speed. Is there any way to close that gap before the floor shifts again?
That's the governance paradox of automation. Technology accelerates, regulation deliberates. AI models update in weeks, but labor law still assumes a 40-hour week and a single employer. The mismatch isn't ideological, it's temporal. Some nations are testing regulatory sandboxes, controlled pilots that let policymakers experiment with frameworks in real time. Singapore's done it in fintech, the UK in data protection, the Netherlands in platform labour. It's messy, but it teaches agility. Law as prototype rather than monument. For Canada and other advanced economies, the opportunity is to make policy iterative. Shorter feedback loops between employers, educators and ministries, so reskilling programs evolve as quickly as the tech itself. And we need data transparency, companies reporting not only headcounts but how automation shifts wages and training budgets. That's where mistrust lives. People don't resent progress, they resent being the last to learn its price.
You know, hearing all this makes me think the real cracks aren't just in policy, they're in confidence. People can adapt to new tools, new rules, even new careers, but they can't run on uncertainty forever. It feels like we're sort of overdue for an emotional contract to match the technical one. What do you think something like that would even look like?
It looks like trust you can measure. For decades, we've optimized for output, quarterly gains, GDP, efficiency ratios, but none of those metrics capture assurance. Humans need to believe the effort they give today will still matter tomorrow. When that link breaks, subsidies and slogans can't fix it. The emotional contract is the unwritten promise that change will be survivable, that if you keep learning, society will keep catching you. Right now, that promise feels conditional, and people can feel it. That's why predictability outranks perks and transparency outweighs incentives. Rebuilding that contract means designing institutions that behave like people, communicate often, admit mistakes, and keep showing up. Because trust, once broken, doesn't rebuild through policy. It rebuilds through behavior. And that's where the next segment heads, to the individuals and organizations already rewriting their playbooks for resilience and dignity in real time.
Every era of progress has its fine point, but this one feels written in font too small to read. We signed up for innovation. Somehow the terms changed to constant reinvention.
Because for 2 centuries, the promise was simple. Work hard, gain security. Now the algorithm works hard and security's gone freelance. But a contract is a social story as much as a legal one. It only holds if everyone still believes in the story.
And belief runs on reciprocity. If technology creates value faster than institutions can share it, we start to lose the faith. People stop seeing progress as a path forward and start seeing it as a treadmill.
Which is why the next phase of innovation has to be institutional, not technical. Faster laws, smarter safety nets, and companies bold enough to treat reskilling as investment, not charity. Because trust is the infrastructure that lets automation run at full speed.
And maybe the real measure of efficiency isn't how many tasks a machine can complete, but how many people it can carry forward without leaving them behind.
That's where we'll go next, to the people and companies already building those bridges. Segment 4, Playbooks That Work.
This episode of Toronto Talks is brought to you by Conquest Distributors, your trusted source for shipping, packaging, and warehouse supplies. For nearly 20 years, they've helped Canadian businesses thrive with fast, reliable service and a commitment to integrity and efficiency. Getting the products you need when you need them has never been easier. Now, let's talk about something real. With the latest round of tariffs coming from south of the border, supporting Canadian manufacturers and supply vendors isn't just good for business, it's good for Canada. So why keep funneling money to US giants like Uline when you can get the same or better quality products right here at home? When you choose Conquest Distributors, you're not just getting top-tier packaging, shipping, and warehouse essentials at competitive prices. You're investing in local businesses, strengthening Canadian supply chains, and keeping economic power here at home where it belongs. With fast, reliable fulfillment, an easy-to-use online store, and a team that genuinely cares about your success, Conquest Distributors proves that Canadian businesses can compete and win on quality and service. And now, to make it even easier, Toronto Talks listeners get to enjoy 15% off their first online order with promo code TALK15. Head on over to conquestdistributors.ca and see for yourself. That's conquestdistributors.ca, your trusted business supply partners. Now, back to the show. When the headlines sound like endings, what we need most are examples of beginnings. The ones who adapt first always look lucky until you study the discipline behind their luck. Because resilience isn't a trait, it's a system. And lately that system's being rewritten in boardrooms and living rooms at the same time.
If segment 3 was about broken contracts, this one's about prototypes for the new one. Across industries, the organizations surviving disruption treat learning like a production line, not an afterthought. According to the WEF's 2025 skills report, creative thinking, adaptability, and collaboration have overtaken technical mastery as the top predictors of resilience through 2030. In other words, the advantage now belongs to teams that change well.
And that sounds obvious until you see who's actually doing it. The logistics firm, retaining dispatchers as data ops coordinators instead of letting them go. The manufacturer, pairing every automation rollout with paid reskilling hours. The startup, giving workers AI co-pilots and asking, what can you do now that you couldn't do last month?
Those aren't HR anecdotes, they're early blueprints for an adaptive economy. Because once resilience becomes design, not reaction, technology stops feeling like fate. It starts to feel like a partnership.
Alright, Sophie, let's start with resilience as design. Some kinds of work just don't automate cleanly. The ones that still depend on judgment, right? You can train a model to spot a pattern, but not to feel the weight of a decision. Is that where real job security lives now?
Absolutely. Judgment is the last durable edge, not because it resists automation, but because it defines what automation can't decide. Tasks built on discernment, empathy, or moral context still need a human pulse. A nurse prioritizing 2 critical patients, a financial advisor guiding a family through risk, an engineer weighing safety over speed. Those aren't just data problems, they're value problems. The WEF's latest forecast shows social cognitive skills, empathy, active listening, ethical reasoning, rising faster in demand than technical certifications because judgment connects facts to meaning. You can outsource calculation, but not conscience. In an age where thinking is cheap, caring is premium. That keeps human work relevant, not the complexity of the task, but the consequences of getting it wrong.
That line sticks. Thinking is cheap, caring is premium. So, for professionals with deep expertise, like lawyers, doctors, engineers, what happens when the machine takes on more of the thinking?
The frontier isn't automation, it's augmentation. Pros who pair domain knowledge with machine intelligence multiply their reach. Architects use generative design to test 100 floor plans overnight. Lawyers feed thousands of precedents into AI review to focus on argument strategy. Teachers use co-pilots to tailor lessons for every student. But the real skill isn't the tool, it's the translation. Those who frame questions clearly, sense when the model's wrong, and fold outputs back into judgment will define the next elite. Call it interface literacy, conversing with intelligence that isn't human. The best professionals won't be the ones who know the most, but the ones who learn fastest with their machines. That's not surrendering expertise, it's expanding its bandwidth. The job of the future isn't to outthink AI, it's to contextualize it.
That sounds like a new kind of mobility within companies, right? If skills evolve that quickly, the smartest firms aren't just hiring, they're redeploying the talent they already have. So who's been doing that well?
It's one of the quiet success stories. The most forward-thinking firms are building internal talent marketplaces. Instead of layoffs, they redeploy people across projects as needs shift, matching skills to opportunities in real time. IBM's Skills Build maps employee capabilities against live demand and suggests internal moves or micro courses to bridge gaps. Schneider Electric runs an open talent platform across continents. Engineers in France teaming with project leads in India without leaving the company. It's agile HR meets civic engineering. Labour as a living network, not a static chart. Results: lower turnover, faster innovation, and employees who feel like assets, not overhead. Governments could amplify this by incentivizing internal mobility the same way they reward external hiring. A tax credit for redeploying rather than releasing talent. Resilience isn't just about people adapting, it's about institutions reconfiguring as fast as the people inside them.
I like that. Companies learning to reconfigure as fast as their people. And that adaptability feels reputational now, right? Layoffs aren't just numbers anymore, they're stories. Are we entering an age where a brand's credibility depends on how it handles big changes?
Absolutely. Reskilling has become a form of branding. In the automation age, a company's moral authority comes from how it treats people whose roles evolve or disappear. Consumers, investors, and candidates are watching. More firms are building transition guarantees into restructuring. Months of paid learning time, job matching partnerships, even pipelines into other employers. It costs up front, but saves brand equity. Reputation today isn't built by how many costs you cut, it's built by how many careers you rebuild. And companies that do this well attract the best entrants next time. The labour market has a memory, and in an age of transparency, goodwill compounds faster than capital.
You're right. And people are rewriting their playbooks too. You see it everywhere. Freelancing on the side, night courses, jumping industries without calling it a crisis. The ladder went flat and the opportunities went wide. So how do you build a personal playbook for that kind of world?
Swap the metaphor from ladder to lattice. Careers aren't a single climb, they're networks of experience. Instead of chasing titles, stack value, skills, stories, relationships that travel wherever you go. The healthiest workers treat learning like fitness, not a binge when you're behind, but a daily habit that keeps you agile. They mix employment, freelance work, and study cycles like a diversified portfolio. And the return isn't just financial, it's psychological. Adaptability feels less like survival when it's part of who you are. But nobody thrives in constant motion without an anchor. That's where community comes in. Shared spaces, mentors, families, even podcasts like this one, places where progress feels witnessed, not lonely. Because the point of a personal playbook isn't just staying employable, it's staying whole. All of this points to a bigger question. If adaptability is the new currency, how do we design systems that make it universal, not exclusive?
Every transformation eventually becomes someone's ordinary day. What feels like chaos at first settles into rhythm once we learn the steps. That's the promise of these playbooks. They turn panic into process.
And they prove progress doesn't have to be extractive. When firms reinvest automation gains into skill growth, productivity compounds instead of cannibalizing itself. Reskilling stops being charity and becomes infrastructure, an operating expense of civilization. The WEF calls it adaptive capacity. I'd call it cultural metabolism. The faster a society converts disruption into learning, the longer it stays alive to its own potential.
Maybe that's what optimism really means now. Not blind faith in technology, but faith in our ability to keep up with ourselves.
If we can make resilience routine, efficiency doesn't threaten dignity, it multiplies it. And that's where this episode has been heading all along, toward a future where machines handle repetition and humans handle renewal.
We'll close that arc next. How to make sure the guardrails rise as fast as the engines. Segment 5 is Guardrails and Guarantees. Every great leap needs a railing. Progress without guardrails isn't progress, it's acceleration without direction. And right now, the world's building faster engines than rules.
That imbalance shows everywhere. Corporations automating quarters, governments still legislate in years. The World Economic Forum's Employer Outlook says most large firms plan to retrain a third of their workforce by 2030, a rare alignment of intent and necessity. The risk isn't unwillingness, it's coordination. Training alone can't absorb the shock unless the rest of the system flexes with it. Wages, benefits, even energy costs.
And speaking of costs, that winter electricity forecast keeps surfacing. 4 to 5% higher for homes that heat with power. More data center demand, more strain on the grid. So the same technology promising savings is quietly raising the baseline of living. It's a small number on paper, but for households already stretched, small is the new heavy.
That's why fairness has to expand beyond payroll. If automation reduces headcount but inflates power demand, then part of those efficiency dividends should cycle back into the communities, footing the bill. Imagine every major data center hub funding local grid upgrades or winter energy credits. Not philanthropy, reciprocity. Progress pays its power bill.
So the question becomes, what does a humane modernization package actually look like? If the last contract traded loyalty for security, what's the trade this time around?
It could start with 3 guarantees. First, reskilling as a right. Any company automating a function contributes to a portable learning fund employees can draw from, even after they leave. Second, wage insurance. For workers displaced by automation, temporary supplements keep families solvent while they retrain. Third, shared infrastructure. Governments redirect a fraction of corporate AI tax incentives toward grid resilience, broadband equity, and civic tech education. Each policy differs, but all share one idea: modernization that lifts everyone it touches.
It sounds ambitious, but we've done it before. The last industrial revolution built railways and labor laws in the same generation. Maybe this one just needs the same balance: fiber optics and fairness, side by side.
Because the purpose of technology was never efficiency alone, it was to free capacity for higher work. When we forget that, innovation becomes extraction. But when we pair it with empathy, it becomes expansion, the widening of what people can be. The line between those two outcomes is drawn by policy, culture, and the imagination to choose both growth and grace.
And that choice doesn't sit in a boardroom or a legislature. It starts in how we talk about the change. If we can replace fear with fluency, learn the language of our own transformation, then maybe progress can finally mean movement without loss.
Because the new social contract isn't a document, it's a behavior. It's how companies share gains, how citizens adapt, how leaders listen. It's the quiet agreements we make about what's worth preserving when everything else is upgrading. Guardrails don't slow the future. They let more of us reach it intact.
That's it for the show. Like and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts, and reach out to us anytime at talk@torontotalks.ca. We'll see you next time right here on Toronto Talks, where big ideas come to life
And curiosity never sleeps.